These are the 5 SAP skills companies are quietly paying less for. Not because SAP is dying, and not because your experience is worthless, and not because AI can suddenly run an entire SAP program with less people. The problem is this: some skills that used to make you valuable are now become basic expectations. And when a skill becomes basic, it stops commanding a premium. It stops getting you the better role, the higher rate, the promotion. So whether you are in FICO, ABAP, Basis, Integration, or Project Management, this applies to you. And stay until the end, because the fifth skill is a trap that catches even senior consultants off guard. And I'm not going to tell you to throw away your SAP experience. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what companies are paying less for, what are they paying more for instead, and the 90-day move that can change how you position your career in the right way. So let's get into it. Important clarification. These skills are still needed. Yes, they are. You still need configuration. You still need ABAP. You still need integration. You still need reporting. You still need deep module knowledge. But companies are paying less when that is all that you have to offer. The premium is moving to people who can connect SAP knowledge to a business problem. So the old way was, I know SAP MM, I know SAP FICO, I know ABAP, I know CPI. Now, the stronger way is I reduce procurement delays. I help finance teams shorten the month-end close. I stop orders from getting lost between systems. I help businesses automate repetitive work without losing control. It's the same SAP knowledge, different value, and different money. So the first skill companies are paying less for is knowing screens and configuration without understanding the business process. Now, this affects a lot of functional consultants. You may know ME21N. You may know MIGO or MIRO. You may know VA01 or FB50 and F02. You may know pricing. You may know release strategies, payment terms, tax procedures, account determination or workflows. All that is beautiful. It's useful. But consultants are increasingly asking a different question. Can you explain why this process exists? Can you explain where it breaks? Can you explain where data affects it? Can you explain who owns the decision? Can you explain what happens when there is an exception? Because that is where the value is. The company does not wake up and say, we need someone who can configure purchase orders. They say, we have supplier delays. We have invoice blocks. We are paying late. We are losing money through uncontrolled buying. We cannot close the book sometime. That is the problem that they will pay you to solve, not the transaction code. A basic consultant says, I configured the purchase order release strategy. A stronger consultant will say, redesign the approval flow so that urgent purchases, stop getting stuck for 3 days while, spend controls stay in place. A basic FICO consultant will say, I configured automatic payment. A stronger consultant says, I reduced overdue supplier payments by fixing invoice blocks, approval delays, and payment run exceptions. That is the difference. So what should you learn instead? Learn one end-to-end process properly. So if you're in FICO, learn record to report, not just GL. Understand AP, AR, asset accounting, intercompany, tax, close, reporting, and controls. If you are in MM, learn procure to pay, not just the purchase orders. Understand the sourcing part, contracts, requisitions, approvals, goods receipts, invoice verification, supplier risk, and payment handling. Now, if you are in SD, learn order to cash, not just sales orders. Understand the pricing, the credit, the delivery, the billing, the returns, disputes, and collections. Here is your move this week. Take one process in your module. Pretty much draw it on one page. Start with the business triggers. Show how the teams get involved. Show the data that is needed. Show the approval points. Show where it breaks. If you cannot explain that process on one page, you don't own it as yet. And if you do own it, you become harder to replace. Now, even people who know the process can become low value if all they do is spend their week building reports that no one acts on. The second skill companies are paying less for is manually pulling reports together. Now, this one affects functional consultants. It affects project managers, reporting teams, and managers. You know the routine. Someone asks for a steering committee pack. So you export the data from SAP, you open Excel, you clean it, you chase 3 people for updates, you make charts, you update PowerPoints. Then a day later, someone asks, why do the numbers not match? And then you begin again. And that work still exists, but it's not premium work. The value is not making the report. The value is explaining what the report means and what the business should do next. A weak answer is, here is the dashboard. A strong answer is, close is delayed because 60% of the blocked invoices are sitting with 3 plants. The root cause is missing goods receipt confirmation. Here is what needs to happen this week. A dashboard is not your value. Decision clarity is your value. That is the moment where your role changes. You stop becoming a report builder and you become someone who helps the management to take a decision. For FICO consultants, that means understanding financial close data, controls, reconciliation, and the business reason behind the numbers. For BW, BO, BODS, and reporting specialists, this means moving beyond report delivery into data quality, lineage, reconciliation, modeling, and data ownership. For SAC and Datasphere consultants, it means knowing the business decision behind the dashboard, not just how to build a chart. For project managers, it means spending less time chasing status and more time understanding the delivery risk, the dependencies, and the decisions. The third skill companies are paying less for is a basic interface work without ownership of the business outcome. Now, this is for CPI, PIPO, Integration Suite, middleware, API, and technical consultants. A lot of the consultants I work with say, I build flows, I know iDocs, I map files, I connect APIs. Great. There are thousands of people who know that. Those are all very important skills, but they are not enough anymore. A client is not paying for an iFlow. They are paying because a broken integration can stop orders, delay payroll, block invoices, create audit issues, or damage customer experience. Now, the integration is only the plumbing. The business outcome is the value. A weak integration consultant says, I built an SFTP integration from a third-party system into SAP. A stronger consultant will say, I designed the integration so that the supplier invoices cannot disappear between the third-party system and the S4HANA. I built error handling, monitoring, retry logic, and business reconciliation so AP can trust the process. So one person moved a file, the other one protected a business process. That is who gets paid more. So what should you learn? Yes, learn Integration Suite, learn APIs, learn OData, learn events, learn mapping, learn the error handling, but also learn the questions that separate a developer from an architect. Which system owns the data? What happens if the message fails? Who notices these changes? What happens if it processes twice? What happens if it arrives late? What proves the data arrived correctly? That is how you move from building interfaces to owning integration outcomes. And that leads to the next skills where many SAP developers need to change how they see themselves. Before I explain this, let me tell you how this usually goes. A business asks for one small teeny-weeny change. Someone creates a quick Z report, then another enhancement, then a custom table, then a workaround, because the first workaround created another problem. 5 years later, nobody knows what can be changed without breaking something else. That is why custom code is no longer just a development decision, it is a business cost decision. The fourth skill companies are paying less is for custom code as the default answer. So ABAP developers, this is not an attack on ABAP. It is an upgrade in how you need to think. ABAP is not going away. Good developers are not going away. But the old thinking is losing value. The approach was in the past, the business has a requirement, build a Z report, build a Z transaction, create an enhancement, add a custom table, put it inside the core, and that was normal. But every custom object creates a future build. There's an upgrade effort, there is a testing effort, there is a support cost, there is a security risk, there is technical debt, there is a migration risk, there is a documentation burden. And when S4HANA changes, someone has to fix that code. And usually that's you. So clients are asking better questions now. Can standard SAP handle this? Can configuration handle it? Can Fiori handle it? Can a workflow handle it? Can an API handle it? Should this be built outside the core? Should we build it at all? Now, that is not a downgrade. It's a bigger responsibility. The future is not the developer who writes most code. It's the developer who helps the businesses build the right thing in the right place with the lowest long-term cost. That is what I call becoming an architect of the clean code. So if you are an ABAP, get stronger into ABAP Cloud, CDS views, RAP, APIs, the Fiori elements, testing, extension strategies. Learn how to decide whether something belongs in standard configuration, in-app extensibility, side-by-side development, or should not be built at all. That decision is worth far more than writing just another Z report. And now we're at the fifth skill, the trap that I mentioned at the start. Customers are paying less for deep module knowledge when the consultant owns no business outcome. And this is where even experienced SAP people get caught. You can have 15 or 20 years of deep module experience and still be treated as a resource instead of someone who owns the result. Now, let me be clear. Specialization still matters. We really need deep FICO consultants, deep consultants, deep EWM consultants, deep ABAP developers, deep basis consultants, deep security and GRC people. Now, this is not an argument for becoming someone who knows a little about everything and nothing properly. The problem is being deep in one box while having no understanding on what happens before it, after it, or when it breaks. Because SAP work is moving across handoffs. So finance connects to procurement, connects to suppliers connects to logistics connects to inventory connects to production, connects to maintenance. And AI-supported workflows will work across these handoffs too. This means that the premium is moving to the person who understands the full outcome, not just one screen in the middle. So take an FI consultant. You cannot only know journal entries, you need to understand the close, you need to understand AP, AR, tax, intercompany, controls, reporting, and the data coming in from other systems. Take an consultant. You cannot only know purchase orders, you need to understand sourcing, you need to understand contracts, supplier management, approvals, receiving, you need to know invoice verification and spend control. Now, for my favorite lot, the project managers, you cannot just chase tasks and produce status reports. You need to understand what can be automated, what needs human judgment, where the risk is, and who owns the decision. This is also where AI matters, not because you need to become a prompt engineer. You absolutely do not. You need to become the person who can answer these 5 questions. What is the business outcome? What data does it need? What can the system recommend? What can the system execute? What always needs a human approval? If you can answer those 5 questions in your area, you will be ahead of people collecting certificates without knowing how the work actually gets done. Now, let's make this practical. I do not want you to leave this video, buying 5 courses and feeling more confused than before. You need a very simple move. Here is what I would do over the next 90 days, not 5 years, 90 days. And I want you to think of this like a mentor giving you a practical plan, not someone trying to sell you another dream. Days 1 to 30, pick only one process. Pick one process in your area. FICO, month-end close, invoice exceptions, or intercompany. Purchase requisition to payment, SD, order to cash, or credit management. ABAP, one process where custom code is creating pain. Write down the following on a piece of paper. The business pain, the people involved, the systems involved, the key data. What are the approval points, the exceptions? Do not start with the course. Start with the problem. Days 31 to 60, add one modern layer. Now add one skill that makes your existing experience more valuable. If you're a functional consultant, learn the relevant S/4HANA changes, Fiori apps, process controls, and reporting. If you're an ABAP developer, learn CDS, RAP, ABAP, cloud, API-based extension. If you're an integration consultant, learn the APIs, events, security, monitoring, and error handling. And if you're a project manager, learn about process analysis, AI governance, delivery control, and how to structure work supported by agents. Do not learn everything. Pick one layer. Go deep enough to use it. Days 61 to 90, build the proof. This is where most people fail. They watch videos and they do a course and they get a certificate, and then they wonder why they're not getting any interviews. You need proof. Create a one-page process map. And I do not mean a 50-page process document. I just mean one page. At the top, the business problem. On the left, what triggers the process, and in the middle, the systems, the people, and the approval points. On the right, mark the exceptions and where the process breaks. And at the bottom, the business results that you're trying to improve. That one page is more useful in an interview than telling someone who has completed another course. Then create one piece of evidence around it, a small demo, a before and after improvement proposal, a sample integration flow, a simple wrap app, a migration quality checklist. Show how you can fix one realistic business problem. Do not use confidential client data. Use a realistic example, but show that you understand how the work is actually done. Come companies do not hire certificates, they hire evidence. So the 5 SAP skills companies are paying less for when they are all you offer are knowing screens without understanding the process, manual reporting without decision support, basic integration work without owning the business outcome, custom code as the default answer, and deep module knowledge without business ownership. None of these skills are really useless. They are the foundation. But foundation alone does not command a premium. The people who do well over the next few years will combine SAP knowledge with process, data, controls, and business outcomes. That is the move. So tell me in the comments, what is your SAP role? How many years of experience do you have? And which one of these 5 is your biggest gap right now? Send this video to one person who keeps buying courses after course without knowing what they're trying to become. It might just save them a year. Subscribe if you want practical SAP career videos on what is changing, what still matters, and what to learn next. And watch this next video where I break down the top SAP roles that are growing fast and why.